Okay, before we were so rudely interrupted, I was saying something, and now that I was interrupted, I have to reshare. So let's try. The broadcast has been paused. It should resume shortly.
What's going on?
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. Hello, Jennifer. Is it working better this time? I'm so sorry. Up next. Okay, we are working. We are working. I'm so excited. Let's go ahead and make sure I can share this post so I can get people back in if they choose to accept it. It's going to take me a minute. I'm sorry. I have to do an interesting share thing if I want to allow people to check in from different pages, like I said before. There's 1 and 2. Oh, good. Apparently, it just doesn't like going for too long. Maybe next time we'll keep it in shorter pieces anyway, and I'll get to an actual stopping point. Hey, before I restart. And I'm having weird share in a group, share an event, share in a friend. Okay. Try this again. Yay, technology.
And you had a bunch of smoke around it.
My kids are outside playing, being cute.
Where did all the smoke come from?
Ah, there you go. Now it's working. And 1.
I like things. 1, 3, 4 o'clock.
1 and 2.
Okay? How do you know our names? I don't know.
And 3.
Hi, Shieldy.
And a 4. Sorry, I know I'm boring. This is the one thing that sucks. When it resets, I'm officially distressed because of this reason by itself. Please hang on for 1 more minute. I'll be done in a second, promise. And then, last but not least, I think that's everything. I hope that's everything. So, hey, y'all, sorry. So I was just telling you a really cool story that happened to me today. I was pretty stoked about the fact that it happened to me today, where and did you guys get to see it? I wonder how badly it glitched. Long story short, I got to speak with a scientist who disagrees with climate change, who explained to me about how he personally disagrees with climate change because he believes that we as a globe, as a global state of being, have been in a position of being a carbon dioxide. Aisling, hello! Yay, I am back. Right, Jennifer, aren't we all? I was going to say that I am glad that having personal uncertainties are still evolving in my own practice, that I'm not alone and that it's okay. I should actually read that better. I am so sorry. Hello, John Holler. It's lovely to see you. John and Amanda. I was just talking about how I got to hang out with a guy who has scientifically analyzed the carbon levels, the CO2 levels in the atmosphere around us, and believes that we've been at a CO2 deficiency on a global scale for a long time. I've wondered about that, actually, just so it's said. The reason I mention it is not to say who's right or who's wrong, or even to really discuss it. My point is to say that the discussion, hi to you too, John, the discussion itself would not have happened if he wasn't willing to disagree. And now, not only is my mind itching to learn more about this, but I bet it's causing you guys to want to at least do this much more research into it, to at least question. And the real concept behind science is that we are all in a position of being, imperfect. We can only perceive so much of the universe at one time. So if we talk, if we work, if we build off of each other's work, expertise, research, logic, etc. My kids are outside with Daddy now. There's a drone that might fly by in a minute and recording me with you. Logic bomb. But the act of communicating, of being willing to disagree, of being willing to work together to share each other's experience, allows each of us to grow more as an individual than we would if we were separate. A couple of y'all on here have heard about when I first began my path as a pagan. I actually was hanging out at a place called Chauncey Village here in Lafayette. It was surreal. I just went up there with a friend one day because she would always go hang out at Chauncey Hill. And I ended up meeting pagans, sorcerers, skeptics, scientists, skaters, potheads, over 100 people who were all friends with each other, where what we did was we pushed each other's thinking a little bit further. Anything from philosophical conversations to heavy scientific debates to checking out all of the ladies and men walking by. Pretty. It was fun, and it was interesting, and it was respectful, and it was food exploration with the different restaurants there. John Holler was there, and it was epic. John helped me get my start in a lot of respects, and I hope I returned the favor at least a little. I don't know. He always was a step or few ahead of me. So when we learned from each other, there was a certain amount of falling downstairs involved. We all made mistakes. We all became something more different than we were before. But the best part of it was we disagreed. We each had our own area of expertise. We were each changing and becoming. We always will be. But not if we put ourselves in a comfortable bubble and say, okay, that's it. Thank you, John. He said, you did. I did return the favor. Seriously, I will always be a nerd. More of the blood of mine enemies now. V8. No bunnies or virgins were harmed in the making of this cup. So now, as I'm working, it's freezing up. There we go. So now, as I'm working with all of you guys, one of the things that I'm experiencing, that I want to be experiencing with all of you, is learning how we agree and don't. The book that I assigned, I'm getting smiley, laughy faces. I can't help but respond. The book that I assigned before, Celestine Prophecy, some people strongly disagree with it. It's not historically accurate, of course. It's a parable. It's allowed to be, you know. There's a certain point where it's supposed to be a journey. It's about the journey. It's about the experience. And a lot of the books that I cover as a priestess, as a teacher, I really focus on the fact that some books are bad, but they'll still teach you, if nothing else, how to be skeptical. That's an important skill, being skeptical. Some books are terrible reads. Is it because of how they're written? Is it because of their content? Is it because you have a lot of distractions in the background that kept you from being able to focus on them? There's no harm one way or another. So when I'm talking with you guys about your path and where you're going with it, please recognize not that I myself am right and I have all of the answers. I don't. And I don't want to. I don't want to have all of your answers. I don't have all of mine, heavens. A blind leading the blind? Instead, it's more the matter that I took the time to learn. Hi, Crystal. It's lovely to see you. It's that I took the time to have drones fly over my head suddenly. I am so sorry. That's really distracting. Did I mention the kids? Did I mention the kids are all flying drones outside? Come here. Show off the drones for a second. You're still covered in pudding, child. Now you have to show off your pudding face. Come here. Lean over. Look at this child. He's covered in pudding. No one can get pudding all over them like a 6-year-old little boy, I'm telling you.
Mommy, tell them about the story with the tiny piece of chocolate.
Oh my goodness. One morning, Asher asked if he could have chocolate on his way to school. This is a total tangent. I apologize. Asher asked if he could have a little bit of chocolate on the way to school. I said, no, you'll get it everywhere. He's like, just a little. I said, ugh. We had some fudge, so I took 1 spoon and dipped it in the fudge, and I handed it to him in his little car seat, his booster in the chair, his booster in the car, and I closed the door. I drove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. 6 blocks. Maybe 10 if we round up. By the time we got there, the spoon was not clean, but neither was he. He had chocolate on his face, his hands, his neck, his shirt, his pants, his sock, his shoe, and there was still some on the spoon. That's the thing that really gets me. He didn't even clean the spoon. His arms, hands, and shirt all had chocolate on them. Do you see him? You saw him with his pudding?
The video makes me
1 pudding cup.
The video makes my arm look fat.
You finally look like you have actual weight on your skinny little bones. Oh, Adam, I have no idea how. He's a boy.
My wrist looks more
My
fat
girls
than
are
it
like,
is.
oh, I got chocolate on me. Asher's like, I don't know.
The video makes my wrist look like it's fatter than
It really doesn't. You are just more sensitive to it because you are not used to
looks like
looking
it.
at you. I love you. Please don't worry about being fat when you were the skinniest thing I've ever seen in my life. You're not allowed to. Okay, now go play.
Okay.
You're adorable.
Ah, dang it, my tape's too long.
Did we freeze? Tell me we didn't freeze. Hey, we're back. Children are amazing. I love my kids. Okay, so we were talking though about the process that this summer course essentially of the study sessions is supposed to be following. The books that I'm assigning, the next one I want to assign is The War of Art. Oh, Crystal, yes. Crystal has a little bitty baby. She just said, oh, the things to look forward to, laugh my ass off. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Baby's so little. He's so new. He's so squishy. Mine are not. Mine squish me. Your baby is gorgeous. Is that who we're saying is so beautiful? Liette is perfect, I know. Juliet, everyone's saying you're beautiful and you're perfect, nerd face.
Oh. What are they saying about me?
That you're amazing with your chocolate skills. I don't know if we froze up. I hope we didn't. I was just talking with the kids for a second, though. Sorry. Like I said, my study sessions happen in real life. And that was the point that I was trying to get to a minute ago. Real life is such an important part of this. I'm going to keep talking about it this session, I think. We talk about relationships. We talk about family. Your perception of God is so wrapped up in your perception of your parents. just is. Because it's live, because of many things, I'm not going to go into a lot of like heartfelt detail about how my parents and my God concepts. Oh, my beautiful daughter. Thank you, Crystal. Yes, my daughter is beautiful. I agree with you completely. And most days she agrees, thank goodness. It's like, yes, little kid magic with chocolate. Yes. So, when it comes to where these study sessions are going, I kind of want to set the playing field for you. First of all, I've decided on the next book reading. I'm only giving you 3.5 weeks this time. I'm sorry. The War of Art is the next book that we are going to be covering. And it's an amazing book. All of the chapters are nice little bathroom break length chapters. They're very helpful to read for just about anybody, but as anyone who's struggling with religion, with art, with spirituality, this book will hit a special part, a special spot. Hit the spot. That's the word I'm looking for. Hit the spot for you in a special way. Please, if you want to join in on the readings, this is a good place to join in. I also really do recommend the Celestine Prophecy. When we do talk in a week and a half, there's going to be a lot of information there about working with energy. That's something big that I've been covering. And then the War of Art has a lot of information about personal relationships, whereas the Celestine Prophecy covers more of interpersonal relationships. Hi, Paul. I'm actually talking about the reading list right now. We're covering the Celestine Prophecy, and then 2 weeks later, we're going to discuss the War of Art. Both of these are, in my opinion, very valuable books for most pagans, period. Doesn't matter their background. And you'll notice that a lot of what I cover in my study sessions doesn't matter what your background is, because I don't really want to focus on where we have to agree. Instead, I prefer to focus on where we end up agreeing. The sections that talk about how to just be a good person, take care of each other, how to make the world a better place by being, how to get out of our own ways, how to listen, not just to each other, although that's incredibly vital too, but how to listen to the universe, how to be still within it and truly experience the reality of it talking back. For the last handful of years that I've been working with students, that's one of the biggest things. Now, I'm also going to talk over the upcoming week, and I need to get my study sessions written for while I'm in Wisteria, actually. I'm going to be focusing a lot more on the fact that people have gifts and they work a certain way. The way that they work is up to you, but you find out what, I'm not saying this right. If you have special gifts, you know it because they feel like home. You don't tend to learn how to move things with your mind. You know how to move things with your mind. You learn how to do it safely. You don't learn how to be an empath. You are an empath. You pick up on people's emotions, whether you like it or not. And then you kind of learn how to surf on top of it, hopefully. And you wipe out a few times. When it comes to learning candle magic, that is a technique. It's not the same as a gift. When it comes to learning how to do runes, that's a language, it's a set of symbols, and it is a practice. When it comes to skills, innate abilities, that's a different category. And I would like to be talking about that some. Now, I also, in the upcoming weeks, want to focus on how to, I'll say this, how to keep ourselves clean inside by focusing on what we need in relationships, what harms us in relationships, what we acquiesce to that brings us harm, and what we welcome that can bring us good, and how to pick and choose between that. Because it turns out we can pick and choose what we bring into our lives. Now, forgive me, but that's something that gets kind of lost in the I don't want to make anybody cringe, but the male entitlement thing, the white male, a lot of people talk about how they act entitled. No, they just aren't confronted with the challenge of it as often as some of the rest of us are. That reality, welcome back, Michelle. That reality of having to fight for things that other people don't have to fight for, it doesn't mean that anybody's cooler than anybody else at Glitch. It doesn't mean anybody's cooler than anybody else just because this person had to fight for it and this person didn't, so much as the fact that I want to point out that there's a discrepancy, and I also want to point out that we each have areas where we have been given gifts versus where we have to learn them or we have to earn them. And when it comes to relationships, we each have certain things that we are forced to ask for. And sometimes that's harder than others. So there's a lot of people I meet, male, female, black, white, any color, size, shape. There's a lot of people I meet who say, no, of course I can always ask for what I want in a relationship. That's news to me. Sorry, that's a loud car. Oh, come here, baby. My puppy came outside.
Mommy,
The puppy let himself out.
when I go swim at Brooks.
Don't rinse off your chocolate pudding in our neighbor's pool.
No, we're not using these.
No, you have to wash your face as well as take off your filthy clothes, and please put the dog inside. I'm not going to be able to watch him.
Where do I have to
Go.
shirt?
Inside. Go.
Where do I have to wash my shirt? Trigger.
Take off your shirt and wash your face, baby. I know. I have people I'm talking with.
Trigger.
Go with your kid. Go inside.
Trigger.
Thank you, baby. Your wet bathing suits are in the back of my van if you're willing to wear them wet.
No.
Okay. Sorry. Those of us who are not used to having to ask for what we want in a relationship,
What happened to mine?
it's in the back of my van. Go get it. It's still wet.
Okay, I don't care about that.
Real life, anyone? Real life, anyone? Yeah. Lots of real life here. Sorry. So here's the thing. When we are trying to figure out how to be strong, how to ask for what we need, there are people like me who turn to them and say, not right now, son, and then they learn not to ask. So please hold
Where
on
in
a
the back
second.
of your van?
If you get in the trunk, there is a bag full of wet clothes. Yours are some of them.
Okay.
So many of my study sessions are wrapped up in me not missing those lessons. I could have been telling you guys how to always make sure to ask for what you need while ignoring him, asking for what he needs. I try really hard not to. Yeah, mom life doesn't stop for anything, not even magic. It's true. And when we have circle together, that's one of the things I try and welcome. There's a crying baby. Bring him on in. Nurse him, whatever you got to do. Get him a snack real quick. I love being in circle with a whole bunch of people who get that. They're just like, food's up there, cups over there. You need anything else? Cool. All right. As you were, priestess. Warms my heart. So I would like you guys to try and welcome yourselves that same way. In fact, that's something that I try to really push, and it's hard to put into words. When you need to interrupt your regularly scheduled broadcast for something incredibly important, last week I had to do that. Sorry again about my Thursday not being posted for my study sessions, but I was having a really bad day. I actually started my post on trauma Thursday night while I was still in the throes of panic attacks because one of my traumas came up. Oh, Michelle, I'm so happy to hear that. She says, my kids do the same thing on live tarot reading posts. Welcome back, Adam. So when we are trying to deal with old traumas that come up, I didn't know how to like contact my boss and say, hi, I can't breathe. I didn't know how to let you guys know, sorry, I'm trying to write a post, I just can't. My husband, thank God, I was in the middle of writing and he starts distracting me terribly, and then I stopped and realized that him trying to distract me was cheering me up, and if I fought him to focus on writing about trauma, I wouldn't actually get better. So I chose to stop and get better, and I chose to finish it on Friday. We each have a time in our lives where we need to do something along those lines, and it's a good thing. The study sessions over the next few weeks, I want to really try and focus on that, but that's a really hard thing to put a thumb on, put a finger on. How do you encourage yourself to be your full self by just saying, be full? That worked, right? You all feel full now, right? No. We're all real people. We are all doing real things. We are all having to get by. We're all living in a twilight world with lights coming on, wondering what's going to happen when the lights go out, and knowing that it's going to be okay. But, Michelle, I don't know what www means unless you're starting to write a web address. And Crystal, I love you too. I said, Crystal, I love you too, and I think it glitched. Oh, my dog's coming back to visit me. Come here, baby. Come here, baby. If my dog climbs up in my lap, you get to see how big he is. He's actually rather large. He's a husky mutt. Yes, he is. Now, what's fun is the range of practices out there and available. That's something I want to cover after. So it said, the current plan for my curriculum is I covered the questions of what you can do, of what you really need to answer for yourself long term at some point. What religion are you? What are your beliefs? What's your opinions about God? What are your opinions about ethics? What do you consider your moral right? What is it that you truly believe? Not just on a logical level, but on a supernatural level even. Like, what is it that you think is possible in this world, and what do you think applies to you? And I'm sorry, I keep waiting for someone to walk up to me from over there. I'm not trying to be totally weird. When you are going through your day-to-day life, where do the super possibilities, where do all of them lie? Now, after we covered those basic questions, we went into talking about energy, how it works, how it doesn't. When I was really tired, I put together a study session about the basic concepts of energy. And I hope you guys got a chance to look at it. I think it was a pretty good one, although the first draft, I'm glad I adjusted. But science needs to be invited into our practice. Testing, trial, and error needs to be welcomed into this practice, literally the practicing of things. And I want to encourage you all to do that. But then we also need to start focusing on what all energy is. So we've talked about trauma, we've talked about memories, we've talked about energy work. I talked about shame and how much that can just cripple us. I also want to talk about the energy of empaths and being able to pick up on other people's emotional energy, their memories. We need to talk some about the Akashic records. We need to talk about relationships a lot. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with the people that you practice with, and the studies that you do, because that is a relationship, and the expectations that you hold yourself to, making sure that they're fair and reasonable. And then guess what we're going to do? After we talk about all of that, then I'm going to ask you to answer those questions about religion, about your beliefs, about morality, about God. That's when I want you to actually answer, because at that point, I feel like you might have enough information to maybe get started. Not finished, just started. Because, you see, you have to give yourself permission to be anything before you can decide which anything you are. You have to really understand what it is to take off the shackles of life, to put them down and leave them there, to not let yourself be tied up anymore. It's so important for each of us to finally stop having to be able to get to. It's so important for us to be able to play and enjoy this path and not be wrapped up in it, not be encased by it. And I don't say this. No. Go ask. No, you have to go ask your dad or your sister.
No. We're going to.
Okay, go. I love you. Okay. Put the puppy back inside.
A firefly. I'm gonna catch it.
Okay, put the puppy inside first. Put the trigger in first. Asher, 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 I need you to put the dog in the house before you catch the firefly. Asher.
Oh my gosh.
These are like my commercial breaks. You realize this? This is what's going on. I just need little catchy tunes to play in the background.
I got a firefly.
Asher, put the dog in the house. Excuse me. Puppy. Come here. I'm just gonna put you on the... You can stay. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Amanda. It's so much better than the political. We need to have political commercials where it's people catching fireflies and not listening about putting the dog into the house. And I think it might be more relevant to what we're actually getting. Sorry. I apologize. I try not to be politically intense in any way on these, just so it's said, right? So, get out of my garden, dog. So, when day-to-day life is factored in, honey, I do not need announcements. You do know I'm broadcasting. I adore you. Go swim. You have like 5 minutes. The sun's gone, dude. Go. 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 The sky is purple. Not that you can see it on the screen. Oh, we glitched. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, and again, I'm going to embrace what just happened. Now, the application of all of these ideals, all of these concepts need to be worked into these moments. We all say, what's the point of your religion if you don't apply it into your day-to-day life? Hi, Robert. Welcome back. In this case, I mean it very strongly. When my kids come and interrupt my study sessions, I do my best to just include them in it. When they grow up, I don't want them to hate them. But I also don't want to force it down their throats right now.
What time is it?
Even when they're forcing their stuff down my...
What time is it?
9:43 p.m.
Is it 8?
It is well after 8. Last week, I kept the kids all contained and stuff. I think I used up my time for that one. So, and we're back. That's right, Amanda. And we're back. So, when all of these things... Oh, it is different for you, Adam Reed. I forgot about that. And it's certainly not this dark. So you get to experience a time where he's into the time slip. You get to meet Magenta for a second, sorry. So when we are trying to find where our religion and our path overlaps, these are the moments that we need to keep in mind. Does our religion allow us to interrupt ourselves? Does our morality forgive us for having real life? Do we recognize our strengths and our weaknesses? I could have been all kinds of angry. I could glitch badly. There we go. We time warp. We could do all kinds of interesting things as far as chasing children, yelling at them. We could tell them to go away, but like I was saying a minute ago, when they grow up, oh, I will have to do the time warp at Wisteria. You're right. I will find a way. I will also be interrupted
Can we
again.
go swim somewhere?
I already said yes at the neighbor's house.
No, there's Lee.
Look, he's clean. Okay, not tonight. It's dark.
Please.
Are you gonna bring them along?
Who?
All of our friends.
No.
Honey, I'm in the middle of something.
Please.
Not right now.
Tonight.
Not if you ask me another time right now. No way.
Tonight.
Oh, you lost it. Now we're not swimming at all.
No.
Okay, so stop asking. You have to go in.
We have to change again.
He doesn't stay clean for long, Jennifer. You're right. But he's such a beautiful boy. I love my son. I am embracing all of the fun chaos. And I guess that's my whole point in all of this tonight. I'm inviting you guys to do the same in your own lives. Whatever your chaos is, however it presents itself, it's not going to be identical to mine. Remember, I started off by saying that a while ago. It's not supposed to be. I never intended to end up with 3 kids. I debated it as a long shot, absolutely, if nothing else works, to get a son who's an heir, but I was okay with 1. I was kind of okay with none. And then I got 2, and then I got a glitch. No. And then I got 3. And yes, Adam said one person's chaos is another's calamity. For me, it could have been a calamity at any stage. All 3 of my kids were surprises. But instead of fighting, I said, you know what? I haven't babysat really. I need to take classes. I don't know much about childbirth. I need to learn about it. I took the time and treated it like an actual course of my own that I was taking to learn about how to birth my kids and how I wanted to raise them. And then I had to learn how to take pride in it and have... If you are talking to me right now, I have a problem with you. Go. Instead, I really embraced the reality of what was going on instead of treating it like calamity, instead of struggling with it. And over the last few years, I did have to learn how to have a level of, what's the word I want, certainty, comfort, confidence in my way. If nothing else, dog, if nothing else, we're kind of all taught. Did you know that dog leashes and tables don't play well together? Yeah. Sorry. If nothing else, we're all kind of taught, sure, do it your way. Now, which way is that? Like, we're just going to pick something off the list that happens to fit us really well. And if not, Asher, get inside. And let the dog in. You hurt your sister. Now, put the dog inside and go. I don't want to hear a word out of you. Put the dog inside and go. I don't think he did it on purpose from what I saw, but I did see it hurt you, and I'm sorry. Are you broken? You know where the ice packs are? Come here. Sorry, guys. I got to. Come here, kiddo. Where you hurt? Let me see where you hurt. Asher, I said to get in the house. Oh, thank you for hugging your sister. No, go tell your daddy I need his help with you guys, please. Yeah, the dog is hilarious. But no, confidence is key. And when I had to figure out how to embrace my own path as a parent, when I had to figure out how to embrace my own path as a person, it was a struggle. It was truly. I do need you to go tell your dad I need his help. I need you to do this before you do anything else. You guys still like me? I'm so sorry. Daddy was supposed to be on deck with the kids tonight, and I didn't bring my phone to text him furiously and say, I need your help. So when it comes to, could you please help put him in the house, sis? Because it turns out the kids and the dog have been exploding throughout my study session tonight.
Come on,
I'm not sure if I should be embarrassed or proud that it's managed to stay mostly on task. Somewhere in the middle, I think.
Sugar, come on. Come on.
That was directed at you guys too. Just a little. Thank you. You get to see my real life.
Oh my gosh, dude, I'm so sorry.
The kids don't hang from their toes. They get a lot more. Please do this because it's a logical choice. Yes, it's a logical choice. It's logical because of this, that, and the other, and because the other choice makes me crazy. Side note, my daughter has decided to chew on obsidian that could have cut her mouth, but didn't. That's right. Because pagan babies, they're smart. But yeah, smooth, rounded obsidian would be much better, I am sure. But no, that's the downside of having kids around, Jules. Actually, I taught Asher knife safety by having him around my athame. I showed him, here's the handle. Here is one person's chaos is another person's calamity. Yes, Adam, calamity. I hear you. I'm glad that there was no calamity. My son learned knife safety by seeing my athame, and I kept it nicely in my altar, but I did show it to him. And then at one point he asked very nicely if he could take out my athame, and he showed someone, here's the handle, here's the blade part, and here's how we are careful, and here's the sheath that it lives in. And it was a friend of mine who, of course, knew knife safety, and was very impressed by how well he'd remembered every word of it. I was so happy about how well my son did. And he tends to impress. He does. But all of the kids, they want to learn. It's not that they want to get themselves hurt or get into danger. It's that they want to learn. They're drawn to the high energy goodies, and they enjoy being able to learn about the athames and the fireworks. I need the kids to actually stop interrupting my broadcast every 5 minutes. Aaron was going to help with that and disappeared for an hour. I love you. I don't know where he was. Kids were very. It's all good. My husband, he's on vacation. For like the first time in so long, he's actually off work. That's why I really haven't been complaining tonight also. I should say that once. My husband's clocked out. I don't honestly know the last time that he has had time off. So I'm just going to give him applause because that man is always on duty and say, no, I can make this work because, well, as our study sessions progress, and I'm hoping people really start to find their confidence in this whole path that I'm trying to explain, and so many of us have already been on this. It's just that I'm providing a reminder or a set of guideposts for everyone. And I hope that you guys are able to get some depth out of it, even if it's all somewhat familiar. But the next thing that I'm going to cover is a lot of variety of practices and paths. I'm going to try and talk through a variety of different books. We might actually read some of the Native American lore and legends because I rely pretty heavily on those. I froze up. Are we unfroze? I'm not sure if I'm unfroze. Please come back. It's glitchy. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Hey, we're back. So I was saying I'm probably going to share some legends and lore from Native American practices. I am probably going to cover a fair bit of Christianity. I feel like Christo-pagans are frankly underserved. That probably glitched a whole lot. I feel, are we working? I hope we're working. There we go. I feel that Christo-pagans are often underserved, and being able to explain some of the background where Christianity and paganism, they don't have to conflict. They're in different lanes on the same road, if you know what I mean. There are different paths. Are we back? There are different paths up the same mountain. That doesn't mean that anybody has to struggle. Oh, the audio is good. Okay, very cool. Thank you, Jennifer. So when we're talking about all of these different paths up the mountain, I don't think that Christianity should be skipped, especially since there's often a lot of struggle, contradiction, etc., between the Christian lifestyle, which isn't a bad thing, and the pagan lifestyle, which isn't a bad thing, but they often kind of butt heads. Judaism is something I've learned by living it with my husband. I have studied it. Islam, I learned more about through art than I did through reading. And I've read a fair bit about it, but I learned more about its daily practice through art. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. So as the summer progresses, I'm going to cover each of these paths in a fair bit of detail. I'm probably going to sample different readings for people to experience in my study sessions. I might start what I refer to fondly as story time with Beth, where I sample other people's stories, and I'm hopefully going to be able to provide references and proper citation. I don't like hijacking other people's work. It bothers me. So I want to be able to cover a lot of different tribal practices and try and give synopses and really get y'all's feedback on it. I was saying earlier how much I feel it's valuable to be willing to disagree. And that's something that I'm looking forward to over the next few months of studies. If I'm focusing on something that you don't consider to be the focus of a practice, tell me. If you have something that you've experienced that holds a lot of value for you, and I haven't covered it, there's a good chance I don't know. And I would like to know. I would like to be able to share your experience just as much as I'm trying to share mine. So when I am inviting you all to share in this process with me, please know that it's going to be aimed towards education. It's going to be aimed towards exploration. But I also really want to focus on getting your feedback, on involving you in the process. And these Monday nights are going to be important for that. So as you read through my study sessions throughout this upcoming week, which are not written yet, I'm going to probably sit down and write for an hour and a half straight tonight. But as we work through this week, I would like each of you to please open yourselves up to the idea of a response. I actually do really greatly appreciate, I should say this here, I greatly appreciate everything that I've gotten in the way of positive feedback from everyone. I don't have words for how grateful I am that you all let me know when I touch your lives. that you let me know when I am able to play a rescue for you. If I were just sitting here in an echo chamber, pushing out articles into a newspaper with no feedback, this is scary. This is intimate. This is me that I'm handing to you guys. So thank you for being willing to do the same, to just offer me at least this much, at least the thank yous, because they make it worth every day of this. Aisling said, pan religions, we want all the paths. Yes, I want all the paths too. I have a really funny admission for you. I have this much knowledge of how much breadth of religion there is and was in South America. I can cover some, and I do not make promises past that. I am always trying to learn. But if there is going to be a glaring blind spot in my teachings, it's probably somewhere in South America, and I'm just sorry. I'm going to try and cover everything that I can in depth, but I'm not going to just make shit up. So where I have a blind spot, you guys get a gap. And if someone wants to help me fill that gap, shoot me a message, please. I would like to hear about your experience. In fact, a while back, I had someone offer me their own personal writing about their pagan religious experience, and they were the only one who wrote when I put out a large call for people to contribute. Very grateful, and I would like to include that, I think, as I'm going through this. So I'm going to be reaching out to that person, and I'm going to let him remain anonymous until I've contacted him and gotten his express permission to mention him by name. And that goes for all of you. If anybody does want to help contribute on any subject, you don't have to include your name. I will not necessarily include your name. If you want me to, that's fine, but I'm also not going to claim credit for anything that's not my work. It's a balance. So I will be covering Africa in a fair bit of detail. I will be covering India in as much detail as I can. India is a really crazy, amazing mixing, melting pot, and has been for 6,000 years. So trying to cover that well is hard. I can include all kinds of nifty information for you. Historical rants that may or may not be completely accurate because it's correct along the way. That's a lot of information to track. Eastern practices I've studied fairly consistently. What's the word I want? Extensively. There we go. I was not as drawn to Confucian practices because it's not spiritual. It's more behavioral. It's more cultural. More power to them, but it's, again, foreign. I can tell you a fair bit more about some of the... Hello, Graham! Mwah, welcome! I can tell you a fair bit more about some of the mountain practices of Asia, of Russia, of the Gypsies. Fair warning, some of it comes through past life memories, which are not reliable as historical sources. They are great for references. They are great to help inspire research. I have done a lot of work with past life regressions, and I strongly lean towards historical research. Put it in a time, put it in a place. Memories throughout time are based off of who was experiencing what, how it looked to them at the time. It leaves a lot of room for interpretation. So I can be completely spot on. Hello, Guild of the Gods. I'm speaking to myself again. There can be a lot of room for interpretation between that person who lived it, who experienced it, who's now speaking through many hundreds of years of separation and trying to explain something in a way that we will now understand. I hope all of that makes sense to you guys. That's why I'm going to sound like a skeptic a lot more. It's not because I don't believe in past life regression. I read past lives. It's really weird and really cool and very informative. And if somebody wants a past life reading, it's slow and time consuming, and I'm trying to work out an actual pricing for it because this is something I should get paid for. It kind of wrecks my brain for the next day, at least a little. But I do think that actually everything we're discussing here. Oh yeah, hi Aisling. I do past life readings. People refer to themselves as a psychic or whatnot. I'm not that. I am a memory walker. There's a difference. I can pick up on people's memories. You ask me to read what's going on in your mind right now. That's on stage, dude. All I've got is the behind the scenes access. I don't go on stage in your brain. That's your job. So when I read people, I pick up on past lives. I pick up on present moment. I pick up on the correlation between the two. I'm an empath, and I can kind of use that as a tool to help make everything make sense. But I know there is some touchy stuff there. There really is. And I'm not sure. I feel like there's a mild delay between what I'm reading your comments and when I said them. So I'm hoping I'm matching them up correctly. Feel free to correct me if there's apparently a misunderstanding. But when I am reading people, there's also a great big gaping warning at the beginning that says I could be totally wrong, because I'm trying to look at somebody's experience of their present moment through their interpretation in a past time, through my modern interpretation and my foreign eyes, comparing and contrasting against the person that I see in front of me and putting it in terms that they themselves can understand. And to say it's more of an art than a science, yes, it is more of an art than a science. It is really interesting. It's very cool. And yeah, oh, you might have been talking about the charging for it, the touchy stuff there. Yeah, it is touchy stuff there, but it's also 2 to 3 hours of my life, and I disappear for most of the time. I'm just not fucking here at all. I come and go in and out of something else, and it's, I don't even normally say that I can do it. Now I'm saying it online. Hey, everyone. Because I think that some people should be able to learn a little bit more about that. And there's not a lot of good options out there on how to do it. I have a lot of feedback actually when I'm doing readings for people. I just did one the other night. I was able to look up Google search images to go along with what I was seeing. I was able to present those. I was able to find historical context for all of the different times. Aisling, labor intensive isn't exactly the right phrase, but you're on the right track. Let's talk through this. Okay, when I'm giving a reading, I have a hard time reading without a beer in my system because I start getting in my own way. First of all, I start doubting. I start worrying and wondering, and that doesn't work. So the last reading I did, the only payment I accepted was a case of beer because I legitimately had to have two. I have to have two to be able to just loosen up and get out of my own way. I don't like that that's part of it, but it is. And then once I was relaxed and we were talking, and suddenly I was able to start picking up on this other that was associated with the person in front of me. We'd been talking about children and jobs and life and things, and suddenly I could pick up on a time when she was not her. And she's actually the second person I've recently read who had a lot of lifetimes as a nun or a librarian, and often both. And you know who you are. I'm not using names. When I was reading her, she's not always been a woman. Very few of us are always the same gender. And as far as I'm concerned, most souls started really early on in the history of the world, because there's been a few million years of the Earth's history. The humans involved in the Earth's history have been around for getting on 200,000 years. Our souls have been around for a while. At least a lot of us. And in my experience, it's almost as though we're pieces of God experiencing ourselves. Because, okay, I've said this before, I'll say it again. In the beginning, there was nothing. Then there was God. What did God have to create from? I need some liquid in a minute. Or maybe I need it right now. God. Pardon me. I'm going to let you guys ponder that question. I'm going to get a drink. I'm going to run. I'll be right back. Back to actual God, asked Adam. Have you read someone back to actual God? Oh, yeah, of course. Not to make that sound like anything less than an exceptional question. But yeah, of course. We are all, in fact, that's one of the coolest things about reading past lives. What does God have to create from, I asked. What's 1 plus 0? It's not 0. It's 1. In my experience and my perception, we are all interconnected. We're all part of this creation. We're not separate from it. We can't be. We're all part of this interstellar creation that started way back when God sneezed, you know? Whew. It's a hell of a sneeze. So now we're all part of this giant thing beyond cosmic understanding even. And yet the whole thing is put together in a way, the way it interacts, the way it pushes and pulls off of each other, it actually looks like synapses, scientists recently found. Like the things in your brain that do the thinking. We are very small things in this giant macrocosm that is God. So what I've found actually between every life is that we go back to God. We diffuse, we lose this separation, this concept of not personality, and not even individuality, but separation. The idea that we have to be something different. Now, what's funny is when we are born, we choose to be born. Because it turns out that it's only by separating from that source that we are truly able to learn. If we have all of our needs provided for us, there's no necessity. There's no drive. If you cannot starve, why would you need to feed yourself? Okay, food tastes good, but will you just become gluttonous? Or will you avoid it entirely? If there's not a path that you are supposed to follow, a thing you're supposed to accomplish, then you don't find yourself seeking out the accomplishment as much. And you don't have to. So when people are up in that place, far, far away, completely, in my experience of it, awash in a sea of just interbeing, we become a sentience together, and we share that with each other. But then maybe we get an itch. Maybe we get a little, I don't know, bored. Maybe we want to become. Don't you think a seed in a packet really, really wants the chance to grow? That's what I'm referring to. When I read people's past lives, most, not all, most have that stopover in between. When my kids were born, one of the things I really pushed with them was, babies, you came to me straight from God. Try and remember that for me. Try and remember the face of God. Try not to forget. It is the best gift I can ever give you. I can't tell you about God. You already know. Just don't forget. Now, as we go through our day-to-day life, it's not as easy as that. A lot of us have already forgotten. We were already told, you don't know what God looks like. Oh, silly. Really? Thank you, Crystal. I know, I'm going to like that one too. I really I like being able to see God in all of this. Now, as far as the actual beginning, now let me remind you first and foremost, I believe in an active God who is around us constantly, who is always here, who is always with us. And so being able to see God is kind of, I don't know, for me, I feel like it's a lot like you guys asking, me asking you if you guys can see the sky. Not to overstate it, but I feel like we can all see God to a certain extent if we just let ourselves. To a certain extent, that's what I'm trying to do with the study sessions, is just help you guys get out of your way so you can each figure out what it looks like from where you're standing. And it's a really big thing, and it looks different from every standpoint. So there's literally no way for me to give you a map besides saying, hey, here's a bunch of other maps that worked for other people, and some of them were like you. So maybe one of them will help. When it comes to reading past lives, I can actually give you a little bit better of a map. The things that feel right, I can completely mess up. Truly. I can misread a few cues and end up in Timbuktu when I was aiming for Albuquerque. Yay, Warner Brothers references. But that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. A lot of times it's a matter of looking at the same cues, like what I was just saying, from a different angle. I do trust in myself, Adam, but context and history. When I do these readings, there's a lot of feedback required. It's, does that sound right? Does that feel right? Because, for instance, if I were to really gravitate towards this TV show that you loved, I could end up telling you that you were Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a past life. No. You really liked watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You really liked reading about Dracula. But that doesn't mean that you were a vampire or that you were a vampire slayer. But how do I know the difference when trust in yourself, meaning in general, follow your own path. Oh, yes, Adam, sorry, you're right. That is spot on true. You have to trust in yourself to know what feels right and what those words mean. A lot of people, when they're getting started, they have been taught plenty of times from plenty of people that doing what feels right means orgies. Because, like, that feels right. I have never been able to get into an orgy because the act of being invited makes me so damn uncomfortable. Yep. 20 some years in the path, never an orgy. Just so it said. No life sacrifices, no cannibalism, none of that. A whole lot of some candle burnings, lots of bonfires, some booze. So when we talk through all of this over the next few months, those of you who are here tonight, try and remember not necessarily what we're talking about of all this correlation stuff when it comes to readings. I hope, Aisling, that all made sense to you. I know that the act of being able to give readings to people in the future is something I'm curious to do. But yeah, I am more worried, Crystal, yes, like what you just said, that doing what feels right, people often think that's wrong. And I have pushed against that myself, that if it feels right, it must be wrong. It must be wrong. I'm always wrong. Just ask anyone. I'm always wrong. And I've made some not poor life decisions, but not helpful decisions. Thank you, Sandy. That was a minute later. Just a little booze, she says. LOL. So as we go forward from here, I'm going to ask everyone who's here right now to do me a favor. Remember what I'm saying about the context. Remember what I'm saying about how much everything does need to be made personal. That each of our paths, as we investigate them, are supposed to fit us. And help me remind everybody else that they are allowed to find their own way. If you are able to offer any input, any responses along the way. Zach Bartu said, Chuck Schuldiner, R.I.P., the late lead singer of Death, once said something along the lines of that we create our heaven and our hell on earth simultaneously. I'm going to close then by responding to that directly. Evil and good manifest in our decisions and our energies, says Zach. I told you guys about my experience of being on the other side before you're born and being processed. Let me aim towards closing anyway by telling you about the other side that I've seen. People in their day-to-day life are often taught that they are not worthy, that they are not able to be good enough, whatever that means, that they are there to disappoint their friends and family, that they are going to be imperfect. Sometimes they're beaten or raped. Sometimes they're just demeaned and diminished. Of course you lost your job, you fuck up. It begins to define them, not in their actions, but in their expectations. It begins to underlie every quiet decision. Of course I'll run late. Why would I want to be on time? I needed a mental health day. I know it's my first month at the job, so it's only one day. You know, it's not a big deal. Assumptions of the quality that people are allowed and expected to hold themselves to are maybe different. And some people are basically taught that they have to fail every day. I disagree. Can I say that once very clearly? I disagree. But to continue my thought. Oh, that was really cool. Did you see that lightning bug behind my head? It was neat. Of course I went the wrong way. That's right. Yes, there. That's where it was. A lot of these souls, when they pass on to the other side, are taught not to accept what they want, not to be able to ever receive what they need. They're taught that they are evil and they're going to hell. They come to terms with it by doing strange things in their lives, like what I refer to as high school Satanism, where because they are bad, they go and do rituals to the devil. Don't get me wrong, there's a concept that is the devil, but I haven't experienced anything that's a true embodiment of evil. There's too much chaos for that. Instead, I have gotten to clean up demons. I have gotten to clean up ghosts. Most of the demons I've met are non-planar beings that were brought over by way of a nightmare. Somebody got real messed up on drugs. Somebody got bored, played with some symbols, prayed really hard, something, used a Ouija board, and the something popped through and couldn't interact with this realm, couldn't touch it. And because they couldn't touch this realm, they starved. They just starved. They lived parallel, simultaneous, and alone, and they went mad. And then the funny thing is, humans, really high energy, multi-vibrational beings, end up providing really good food. They interact with us. They end up bumping into us, and they find out that we're delicious when we're freaked out about something. That boy that we're going on a date with, or that guy that really made us mad, or oh my God, did you see that dress? We just, and all of that spirits can eat. And they get nice and full, so they get nice and strong. And then they start getting strong enough, they can interact with us back. Hey, make that energy again. Hey, you. Ah, there's that energy. Ah, so delicious. I think it's a lot like us herding cattle to be able to get milk from them, honestly. I don't see a huge difference. Now, when the humans I meet who have these terrible views of ourselves, who have been taught that they're not good enough for anyone, anything. When we're taught that we need to just take what's coming to us, we turn into lonely, angry, self-centered beings. Now what's funny is we're not focused on our well-being. We're focused on our concept of self. And when you die, if that's your only concept, that concept of self, you kind of lose your connection to the greater universe. It doesn't exist exactly, and especially if you don't consider yourself worthy, when that great opportunity to return to the source appears, we just, that can't be mine. Do you know how many times in life we all miss opportunities, not because we didn't get them, but because when it showed up we said, oh, I'm sure that's for that other person because they're dressed right and I'm just, it could possibly be me. And they stay here, unable to eat, unable to drink, unable to touch us, but able to see us, able to hear us, but not able to be heard. The walls that shelter us, they have no skin hunger. They don't need air or heat, but they have that skin hunger where they long to be touched and interact, or at least some explanation for what's going on. They live with us, without us. Zach, you talk about how we create our heaven and our hell on earth. Our heaven is what we are able and willing to see that we are worthy of, what we are capable of achieving. And sadly, I'm not sure that as many penalties are built into that as most of us would prefer for legitimately just shitty human beings. I'm not trying to get into a conversation about the deservedness of karma. In fact, I will say this. There are times where I feel that witches who are connected with karma should be willing to invoke it, because the act of invoking karma invokes it on both parties. Those who invoke it and their target. And if you legitimately have enough good karma saved up that it's not going to bother you, rock that. The good karma that I have gotten to harvest before helped prove to me that I was a good person. And when I got to watch the bad karma that other people had racked up kind of find its way in, shall we say, I don't think it's a bad thing. But as for when we die, I have seen people's expectations of what they deserve control their fates completely. One of the truly heart-wrenching stories was a 6 or 8-year-old boy who was terribly abused, always told that he wasn't enough, always told that he wasn't okay, that he wasn't good enough, that he was always going to fail. He actually lived to being a grown-up, from what I could tell. And when he died, he reverted to a child spirit in his childhood home, wandering around trying to play with the other kids and unable to. He wanted to go home, but he didn't think anyone would want him there. He didn't think he deserved to go home to a place that was truly loving and truly kind. And because he didn't think he deserved it, he, as a human being, had just been kind of worthless. When I sat down and talked with him, I said, you don't have to be worthless. You don't have to assume that this is always going to be awful. You don't have to assume that you deserve any of it. And you don't have to keep making it so you do. You can rewrite the script, and you can do it right now. So let's leave off there, and let me just tell you that cool flicker behind me happened again. No. Let me just tell you that right now, you can decide what you deserve in life. You can decide if you are going to earn everything. The love, the caring. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with this, but you don't have to assume that you're unable to live up to it. You don't have to assume failure first. I did for a long time, and I was completely acceptably mediocre. I stopped assuming that I deserved to be mediocre. And it wasn't overnight. It took a few years. And, if Amanda's still on, she got to see that firsthand. But when I finally got to that point where I was willing to say, no, really, I think I might deserve to be loved. I think I might actually deserve a decent paying job. I think I deserve to be able to ask and to receive. Is that okay? You know? I went around checking, like, is that all right? Do you think it's okay for me to do these things, like write about being a pagan online? Am I allowed? Am I allowed to just talk to people about the stuff that I only discuss with 1 or 2 other people in my living room? Is that cool? You guys have let me know I am allowed. Just let me do the favor and remind you of the same. Now go rock it. Go rock out with your bad self. Go show everybody how deserving you are. Because it turns out you were made exactly the way you were. Exactly the way you are. On purpose. By, somebody or something. Once upon a time. And that something really, actually, truly wants for you to succeed. And so do I. Love you guys. Good night.